Hey, Leo here for Actualized.org. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to get started with self-actualization. A while back, I released an episode called The Big Picture of Self-Actualization, where I talk about the high-level components of what self-actualization looks like and what you're actually doing when you're growing. One of the biggest problems that newbies face when they get into personal development or self-actualization is that you read and hear about various techniques, and then you get so engrossed in those techniques that you don't have a big picture understanding of really what you're doing and really why the techniques are working. And so you can't really judge which techniques are very powerful ones, which ones are weak or shallow ones. And so that's why the big picture is very important. So if you're new to this, go watch that episode first. But also at the end of that episode, I promised that I would talk about the practical level, the low level. So that was the high level. This here is the continuation of that, but now the low level. So what does it actually look like when you're taking action on the high level? What techniques and methods are you using to actually make it real, to embody it? That's what I'm going to talk about here. I'm going to give you over 40 different self-actualization techniques. Before I do that, though, let me tell you this, because the reason that I'm even shooting this episode is because more and more I keep hearing from people this problem of, Leo, you have so much content, you have hundreds of episodes, which ones should I watch? Tell me what order I should watch them in. Should I watch that video first, then this one, or this one, and then that one? Tell me how to do it. I want a simple 1, 2, 3-step formula for how to develop myself. Well, when I hear this, I chuckle because it's rather silly. You are supposed to be the architect of your life. How the fuck am I supposed to know what's right for you and what order you're supposed to read books in and watch videos in? I don't know what's wrong with your life. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your vision is. I know virtually nothing about you. And neither do you. That's the problem, you see. You have to be the architect of your life. You have to plan it out and design it for yourself. That's, in essence, why you're alive at all and why you have any brain or sense of consciousness, is so that you can do that. Do not shirk your responsibility and try to get other teachers or people to do this for you, to live your life for you. You might as well ask me to have sex with your spouse for you. Leo, can you have sex with my wife? That's basically what you're asking me when you're asking me, Leo, which videos should I watch in which order? That's your job. It's not my job. That's where life is delicious, is in the designing and architecting of it. You come up with the vision because you have total freedom of what you want to do with your life. You come up with the vision. You then research all the material, all the tools at your disposal, all the techniques that are out there. And they're very easy to research these days with the internet and all of that. And then you go out and you come up with a plan for which tools and techniques you're going to be using to realize your vision. You see, that's what a hero is doing on the hero's journey. You're supposed to be carving out your own path. Nobody can tell you what your path should be because you have unique problems, unique challenges, unique genetics, a unique family history. You had a unique childhood. All that stuff shapes your desires, values, challenges, limitations, and obstacles. And some techniques will work for you and others won't. There's a massive amount of techniques when it comes to self-actualizing, an overabundance, more than you will ever have time in your entire life to explore. But nevertheless, for a newbie, it's good to get a broad overview of what all these techniques could be, or a good chunk of them, so that you know what your options are. Because when you're first starting off, your options are very limited just because you know nothing. You haven't studied anything. So that's what we're going to correct here. Let's start sharing some of these techniques with you. And then because there's an overabundance, don't think that you need to use all of these. Just A handful of them, just 5 out of these 40, can transform your life completely. So don't think you need to go super broad. Although it is helpful to go broad just so you get a better sense of the options, because frankly, you don't know which of these techniques will resonate with you or not. One of these techniques might work really well for me, but then for you, it falls flat. And then vice versa. Something works great for you, but then for me, it doesn't work because it doesn't fit my personality type. You see? So what I'm giving you here are like Lego blocks, building blocks that you're going to use to construct your own creation. So let's begin the list. Firstly, we have life purpose. And this list is in no particular order. Although life purpose, I think, is one very, very important component of self-actualizing. Life purpose is about taking your career and turning it into your greatest passion and your work of art. Life purpose is about finding something really meaningful for you to be doing with your work. Not just a 9-to-5 job, but the most meaningful thing you could be doing. The biggest and most important impact for you that you could be having on the world. How you could be contributing to humanity in whatever way you want that to be, whether it's business, art, or whatever. And then working to master that field, that domain, and getting a really good sense of what mastery is, the process of mastery, and then applying that to your career so that you're making a living in this world and you're waking up every morning and you're excited and you're passionate about what you're doing with your life. Compare that to the way most people work, which is that they hate their job, they grind through it, and then their emotions and their level of passion and excitement for growth and for development reflects that, and it's very poor. Life purpose is very important because it gives you a sense of fuel or motivation, which is really high quality and long lasting. Because one of the biggest problems you're going to face with self-actualization is that you're going to really struggle with motivating yourself. You're going to yo-yo up and down. You're going to fall off track a lot. The way I found to fix that is through life purpose. And I have a whole course on that. So I have over 25 hours of videos that explain how to find your life purpose. The next technique is reprogramming your subconscious mind. I'm developing a course about this as well, because it's also a pretty deep topic. There are various techniques you can use, affirmations, visualizations, and so on, to get at the root of the subconscious beliefs you hold about life and many of the patterns that keep fueling many of those behaviors that you want to stop. Your subconscious mind is responsible for most of what you think and most of what you do. Learning how to reprogram it, how to reprogram various fears, insecurities that you have. This is such a deep topic that I need to create a whole course on it, but a very important one. Another technique is meditation, which I've covered a lot with various episodes. Go check out all my episodes about meditation. Start a meditation habit. I think it's one of the most important habits that you can install in your life when you start to self-actualize. Daily meditation without ever skipping, and making a commitment to meditate for the rest of your life without missing a single day. That's personally a commitment that I've made, and I've stuck to it for about 3 or 4 years now without missing a single day. So it can be done, and it's completely life transforming. Another method I'll point out, which is kind of maybe a subsection under meditation, is specifically mindfulness meditation with labeling. I have an episode called Mindfulness Meditation, which I think that very few people have really capitalized on, where I describe a very formal, specific technique of meditating with using these labels, see, hear, feel, so that you can deconstruct your entire sensory field into sights, sounds, and feelings, both inner ones and outer ones. And this is absolutely fundamental if you want to get to the advanced levels of this work, because you need to start to break down all the concepts and fantasies that your mind is creating. And one of the most effective ways I found to do that is through this mindfulness with labeling method, because your mind is just too tricky and it'll completely delude you if you think that you're just going to rationalize your way through some of these things. You're not. You need to actually deconstruct your very experience of reality. So that's a super powerful one. I've also talked about concentration practice in the past. I have a whole episode on that, where I distinguish concentration from meditation. There's subtle differences there. Concentration is very important, especially for most people these days, because our concentration is so shitty because of the way that modern technology affects our brain. Cell phones, internet, YouTube, and all this sort of stuff. So your concentration is so bad that you cannot even sit down and self-inquire for 5 or 10 minutes. It's just terrible. It's terrible. You cannot focus on anything. You can't contemplate, you can't self-inquire, you can't meditate, you can't think about anything for even 5 minutes straight. You don't have any focus. And so that robs you of a lot of avenues to self-actualize. So build a concentration practice. Speaking of self-inquiry, that's another one. Self-inquiry is like the ultimate method for how to arrive to truth, both deep levels of relative truth and then also absolute truth. Self-inquiry is a method for enlightenment, and I have talked about it in the past. I have episodes about it. I have even guided self-inquiry for you, so go check out some of those. Another method is contemplation, which is yet different from meditation and concentration and self-inquiry. And I talk about contemplation in my contemplation episode, so go check that out. Contemplation is hugely important if you want to get to the deepest levels of this work, because what needs to happen is that you need to contemplate all of this stuff that I'm talking about for yourself and derive the answers for yourself and not just believe me or anybody else. You need to see why these things are true for yourself. That creates a lot of growth. That's not something you want to outsource. Another method is journaling. Journaling, I think, is actually an awesome method for newbies. You can start with just 5 to 10 minutes of journaling every single day. It's very easy. Just get a notebook, get a pen and paper, whatever, sit down and just start to write about what do you want for your life? What is bugging you? What's frustrating you? What's keeping you stuck? What are your greatest fears? What are your biggest frustrations in life? What's your vision for life? What do you want out of life? And that's where you can start with journaling. And then if you want, you can take journaling much deeper, and you can do it for hours at a time. You can really introspect. You can contemplate and self-inquire while you're journaling on paper. That can be a powerful method. You can also do self-coaching. You can do self-therapy in your journaling. You can go back into your past. You can analyze your own childhood, your history, problems you've had in the past, goals and desires for the future. So that's a really great technique. Another technique for you is learning the theory. This is just so fundamental that you wouldn't even think of it as a technique. But learning the theory means reading, listening, and watching. Reading books, listening to audio programs, courses, watching courses, audio or video programs, DVD programs, and so forth. And this is critical for newbies, because when you start, you don't know what your options are. You don't know what's right, what's wrong, or how to do anything. Imagine if you tried to do surgery on a human being without having any theory about the human body. It would be a catastrophe. It would be fatal. And that's basically what happens with most people when they try to do personal development, is that they lack the sufficient theoretical foundation for being able to guide themselves and see their own blind spots. And so they fall into a lot of traps and they make a lot of mistakes. How do you correct that? Reading, listening, watching. A lot of it. Hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of it. I've been reading, listening, and watching every single day for many years now. And I still don't feel like I have sufficient theory to know everything that I feel like I need to know in order to guide myself to the kind of life that I want to have. So that's how much theory we're talking about. We're talking about at least a college bachelor's degree worth of theory. At least 4 years of hardcore studying, at least. And maybe even a master's degree worth, or maybe even a doctorate. That's what we're talking about if you really care about living to your full potential in life. It takes a lot of theory because in a sense, you not only do you need the right theory, but also you need to fix a lot of the bad theory that you've been stuck and programmed with from childhood and from school and from society. See, so you got twice the challenge ahead of you with theory, because a lot of the theory you're going to be reading is not even going to be able to stick in your head because you have so much negative opposite theory, which is leaving your cup so full that you can't fill it with the right theory. Another method is taking notes. So as you're learning the theory, I hope you're taking lots of notes, because you're going to be developing a repository over the years of hundreds of pages of notes of all the juiciest wisdom and insights and techniques that you find through your studying and your theory. The note taking is very important. You can't just assemble all this information in your head. There's too much of it. It's too nuanced and complex. It's not going to work. You need to be taking notes, reading notes, studying your notes over and over again, really, the way that you would if you were going to be an A student in college. Another technique for you is buying and doing courses. There are an amazing amount of really high quality courses that are available these days online and in DVD form, in CD form, in audiobook form, and so forth. These courses will transform your life. But you have to find them and then actually do them. And of course, you have to buy them. A lot of newbies are so cheap that they're afraid to buy a $100 course, a $200 course, a $1,000 course. We are really in a magical era right now. The era of the internet and a lot of information available and a lot of incredible courses. You can find courses for how to fix your relationships, for nutrition, for exercise, for yoga, for meditation, for enlightenment, for building your career, building your business, for marketing. I mean, it doesn't stop. There are at least 100 courses available right there on the internet for any one of these facets of your life that you want to master. And they contain very valuable wisdom that would take you decades to discover on your own. So they're really worth it. Another method is researching books, courses, and seminars. So not only do you need to be doing research into the theory, but you need to be doing research into the research. Which things do you need to be researching? Which books should you be reading? Which courses should you be looking at? Which seminars should you be attending? All that takes time to research that stuff, to plan it out. If we're talking about courses or seminars, these usually take a week or more to complete. That's a solid week you need to plan out, put on your calendar. You got to budget yourself. Some of these can cost $1,000 or more. You got to plan your air travel, hotels, all this sort of stuff needs to be planned in advance, purchased, and so forth. That requires lots of research. Another method for you is studying various spiritual traditions. Buddhism, yoga, Tantra, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, whatever. I mean, there's so many spiritual traditions out there. Ones that you've never even heard of, which contain a lot of juicy wisdom. Of course, they also contain a lot of bullshit and dogma, which can easily lead you astray. So this point is tricky, which is why I spend a lot of time in my content talking about epistemology, because I don't want to tell you something like, oh yeah, Buddhism is all true, just go with Buddhism. Because it doesn't work that way. It's a lot more nuanced and complex. There is no one true teaching out there. Most of the teachings are 90% bullshit and delusion, with 10% of some good wisdom in there. And you got to know how to figure out and distinguish the wheat from the chaff, which is why I talk a lot about epistemology, because that's what you need to understand to be able to distinguish the wheat from the chaff. Another method for you is seeking out masterful teachers. We, again, are alive in an incredible time right now where the world is interconnected like never before. And there are incredibly competent, expert teachers available in any domain that you want to learn anything from. Whether it's business, relationships, sexuality, diet, nutrition, enlightenment, consciousness work, whatever, there's a teacher for it. And some of the most masterful teachers are the most unknown. And if you just bother to do a little bit of research and you have the desire and initiative, you can go find these masterful teachers and you can meet them face to face. You can get inspired by them. You can take their courses and seminars. You can buy their books. You can take their programs. You can sit down with them face to face. You can get coaching from them. You can pick their brain. You can even become their apprentice or a volunteer for them or even an employee and learn all their secrets. You can also find very popular teachers, but also take the time to find the rare teachers, the ones that are not very popular. Because someone like Eckhart Tolle, you're probably not going to get face-to-face time with him, but you can find a teacher just as masterful as Eckhart Tolle, or even more so, and you can actually get face-to-face time with him. And a lot of times, those teachers aren't even that expensive. And they exist all around the world. And they fly around all around the world doing workshops and stuff. So seek them out. There's nothing quite like getting the deepest wisdom directly from a master face-to-face. It's totally different than just hearing it from a video. Another method is to attend workshops, retreats, and seminars. This is life-changing stuff. Just one workshop, one good retreat, one good seminar will change your whole thinking on a subject, whether it's business, enlightenment, or whatever. And there's, again, hundreds, if not thousands of these available. You got to research them, plan it out, pay money for them. Yes, they do usually cost a couple $1,000s for a high-quality workshop or retreat or seminar. But then again, they can save you years of going down the wrong road. Vipassana retreats are amazing. That's another technique I have for you here. They're specifically powerful for developing your mindfulness and your body awareness, and also fixing breathing problems that you might have. Solo retreats is another technique I have for you. I released an episode recently about my solo retreat in Arizona. Solo retreat is just basically you for a week or for 10 days sitting by yourself, isolated on a couch somewhere for 12 hours a day, doing nothing or meditating or self-inquiring or maybe journaling, but basically doing nothing without any distractions, without any social media, without any internet for a whole week. This is life-transforming stuff. Just one or two of these retreats will give you several years' worth of growth in 1 week. That's how powerful they are. Also, psychedelic retreats are available. You can go to Peru and do ayahuasca retreats. There are various psychedelic retreats in Mexico, in Canada, even in the United States. There's the Santo Daime Church where you can drink DMT legally. There's all sorts of Native American and Indian traditions, peyote ceremonies, and so forth. So there's a lot of stuff like that available. And a lot of it is totally legal. So go check that out, do the research, pay the money, go travel, do this stuff. It'll be life-transforming stuff for you. Or you can do psychedelics by yourself, which is the second technique I have for you here under psychedelics. Trip by yourself in a responsible manner, specifically for personal development reasons, for spiritual growth reasons. Learn how to use psychedelics properly. And over the last year, I've had just some of the most incredible life-changing experiences on psychedelics. Absolutely incredible. And my growth has skyrocketed in ways that I can't even explain to you from these psychedelics. So that's a hugely powerful tool. Of course, psychedelics are not for stupid people. Psychedelics are for very responsible, careful, wise people. You have to know how to do them properly. I have episodes that I've released in the past that talk about specifically how to do psychedelics for personal development. So check that out. Another method I have for you is ending unconscious relationships. A lot of newbies cannot even begin to grow themselves properly and to start to live out their life purpose or do any of this kind of other work because they are mired in very negative, toxic, dysfunctional relationships, specifically family relationships and intimate relationships and bad old friendships. Some of these relationships can be salvaged and some of them cannot. You need to be able to distinguish which is which, and after a certain point, cut out the toxic ones because they are robbing you of all your potential in life. You do not deserve to stay in any kind of relationship which is robbing you of your highest potential, of your consciousness, and of your ability to self-actualize, even if it's someone very close to you. That's just completely wrong. And all that's going to do is going to turn you into a bitter, dysfunctional person yourself. And you're not going to do the world any favors by becoming that way. So watch out. Cut those out of your life. And then the second method I have for you regarding relationships is that some of your relationships are salvageable. And in those, what you can do is you can learn how to communicate properly. And you can learn how to let go of your ego in relationships. What that means is that you start to identify all the ways in your relationships that you're using your relationship for selfish needs, for your selfish sexual needs, for your emotional needs, for your need to be loved, for your financial needs, for your physical comfort needs. All of this is a lot of selfish, egoic shit, which is toxifying your relationships, and it's not doing you or the other person any real service. So letting go of your ego means identifying where you're being dishonest, where you're being manipulative, where you're scheming, where you're doing all this stuff in your relationship just to satisfy your own ego, and letting that stuff go. That's a huge avenue for growth right there. Which also leads me to the next technique, which is radical honesty. There's a book by Brad Blanton, I think, Brad Blanton, called Radical Honesty, where the whole technique that he describes is just being radically honest with yourself and with other people. And just by doing this and by being more honest, a lot of the stress and neurosis and dysfunction in your life starts to melt away. Even physical ailments like depression and anxiety and so forth, heart disease even, can melt away when you start to be honest, because you keep so many lies and secrets. You hide so much stuff from everybody in your life, including yourself, that it produces a heavy toll on your body and on your mind. Another method I have for you is making new friends. And I don't just mean friends to have fun with. I mean making conscious friends who are into higher consciousness stuff like self-actualization. Most of your friends were made unconsciously, by accident, in school, in college, maybe at your workplace. Now what you need to realize is that now you actually need to make conscious friends, which takes a lot more work and research. But the upside of it is that now you have friends who are actually aligned with your values, aren't holding you back. And these are friends who are maybe building businesses, they're entrepreneurs, friends who are into proper nutrition, friends into yoga, into meditation, into enlightenment. Surround yourself with at least a couple of these friends. You don't need tons of them. You don't need a dozen friends. Just one or two high consciousness friends is all you really need to start, and you'll experience a big boost in your own motivation to grow. And then, of course, the flip side of that is cut out any friends who are being lazy, drunk, going partying every night, that sort of shit. Cut those friends out, because you don't need those friends anymore. You're gonna lose them anyways, because the things you're gonna be thinking about and doing, they're not gonna have any interest in. And good riddance. Another method for you is NLP. NLP means neuro-linguistic programming. I haven't really talked about that much in the past, but this is a pretty deep field. There's a lot of NLP techniques, which are basically various kinds of visualization techniques and sort of pseudo-hypnosis techniques which you can use to reprogram your subconscious mind. You can use it to instill better beliefs, to rewire old beliefs, old patterns, to boost your emotional state, and so forth. So you can research that and start to use some of those. Another method is shadow work. And what shadow work is basically identifying the repressed aspects of your psyche. How you judge people, why you become angry, your deepest fears, your deepest neuroses, stuff that you've repressed. So this is basically therapy in a nutshell. But shadow work to me sort of implies that you're doing it yourself. Rather than just going to a therapist, you're actually sitting down and you're working through your own stuff. You're trying to surface stuff that you've repressed about yourself. How do you do shadow work? Well, I have an episode planned about that for the future too. There's another set of methods that's very promising, and this is what I would call the various collection of New Age methods. These include things like lucid dreaming, astral projection, hypnosis, Reiki, perhaps acupuncture, chakras. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the New Age circles, and a lot of this stuff is very legit. as far as how it can grow you and how it can shift your emotions and your entire relationship to life. So all these techniques are pretty involved, so they take reading and research. I myself have only skimmed the surface of some of these, haven't really had time to go very deep on them, but there's a lot of potential there. Which is not to say that they're all completely true and that I agree with all their metaphysics and all the new agey stuff that comes along with it. There's a lot of dogma that comes with it, so I'm not saying all that is true necessarily, but I think the technique can be very therapeutic and valuable. So if you can stomach the woo-woo factor, there's a lot for you to discover there. And if you're one of these rational people, scientifically minded people who cannot stomach the woo-woo factor, well, I suggest that you drop that shit. Drop it right now. You need to have an open mind when you're doing personal development. You need to put your skepticism to the test. You need to actually test out the techniques. A lot of the techniques that you think are woo-woo and new age and are just for hippies and won't do anything for you, these are some of the most powerful and life-transforming techniques available. And you're really doing yourself a disservice with your closed-minded rationalism. So just drop that shit and actually put this stuff to the test. Another method for you is cleaning up your diet. Sounds basic, but it's extremely important. Going paleo, going vegetarian, going vegan, there's a lot of different diets out there, raw food diet. I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of which ones are better than others. For me, cleaning up my diet has been a process of over 10 years. Layer after layer after layer of, throwing out bad foods and bad habits. I was fat for most of my life. I was so fat that if you saw a photo of me, you would not even recognize me. People ask me for my photo. This was actually, I was fat before the age of smartphones and digital cameras. So I don't actually have any digital photos. My mom has some physical photographs. I'll have to ask her to send me some so I could maybe post that on my blog or something so you can see. But yeah, you won't even recognize me from that photo. It's that bad. I was so fat. It was just terrible. And it affected my energy levels. It affected my self-esteem and my confidence. It affected my sexuality. It affected me in so many negative ways. And I was really, really addicted to food. And that for me has been, in a sense, how I got started with self-actualization, even though I didn't know it at the time, is that I was just so tired and so disgusted with myself with all the food that I was eating. And I had no idea about the right theory, what the right food is. I didn't even know that this food that I was eating was destroying my body. I didn't know any of that. And I just had to kind of pull myself up by my bootstraps and fix that over time. And I'm still continuing that process. Just this week, I made another effort to clean up my diet even more because I'm seeing just how important nutrition is for my ability to self-actualize, especially to get to the very advanced levels. You need to have very clean nutrition. You need to put the right fuel into your body. This means learning about what the right nutrition is, and there's a lot of nutrition theory out there, which is quite complicated to sort through. A lot of contradictory information is out there, so you got to do your research. And then committing to some kind of diet changes, and then making those changes, finding good recipes, mastering those recipes, and then just making it a habit in your life. With the kind of shit diet that most people eat, forget it. Just forget self-actualization. You're just not going to be able to do some of this stuff. You want to do some sort of astral projection and you're eating a shit diet? No, it's not going to work. You want to, you want to meditate? You want to do yoga? This shit is not going to work for you, given the diet that you eat, you see. It's just not going to work. It's all just going to be theory for you. You're not going to have enough energy to sit up and do the stuff you need to do. Which of course leads us to the gym, physical exercise as another technique, and hatha yoga. Hatha yoga here is just the kind of yoga that you see in Western gym classes, the physical poses. That can be great for your physical body, can release some energy blockages and so forth, so that's good. There's also, of course, the real yoga, old school yoga, by which I mean pranayama, kundalini yoga. Basically, it's various exercises, very specific exercises for ways of breathing and body postures and positions and mudras and mantras that's used to send energy up your spine to purify the chakras or energy centers in your body And then that can lead to awakenings. That can lead to all sorts of physical healing. A lot of psychological baggage can be released through this sort of yoga. So this Kundalini yoga can be a very powerful technique. Which leads us to breathing. You need to learn how to breathe properly. You probably think there's not much to breathing properly because you're always breathing, but actually your breathing is very shallow. It's very poor. There are so many breathing exercises that I want to share with you that can just utterly transform how you feel, not just in your body, but they'll actually transform the way you think as well, because your breathing is critical to your physical well-being, your energy and vitality, and also to your thinking process, to your psyche. It's all interconnected, and we're not taught in the West how to breathe properly. Nobody teaches you this in school. Another method for you is holotropic breath work. That's a very specific shamanic deep breathing technique which can lead to mystical and psychedelic-like experiences and can release tons of emotional baggage. That's something that I'll talk about more in the future, but very powerful technique. Another technique for you is body work, energy work, and Reichian therapy, which is not to be confused with Reiki. Reiki is different from Reichian therapy. But what this is about doing work on your physical body. These can be special body exercises, special breathing exercises that you do physically, which release various blockages. Because personal development is not just something you do mentally in your head, but also a lot of it is residing in your body, especially the interface between your body and your emotions. That is largely physical. And you can do years of talk therapy, but not get at that stuff. So that's where these exercises can be very powerful. Another method for you is developing body awareness. Just awareness of what your body is, how it moves, and how you hold yourself. A lot of people have very poor posture. They have a stress and tension that they carry around in their back, lower back, upper back, shoulders, from which you have all sorts of problems. You can have physical diseases and ailments. You have limitations with your energy. You can have thyroid problems. So there's so many different problems that come from lack of proper body awareness and how you hold your body. And I have a book on my book list that specifically deals with just becoming more aware of your body. That might seem so basic, but actually because it is so basic, you aren't doing it. You're not actually aware of your body. And that leads to a lot of problems in your life that you're not even aware of yet. Another method I have for you, and this one is especially important for newbies, is cleaning up your information intake, by which I mean eliminating television, phone, internet, YouTube, stupid comedy shows, news, politics, blogs, gossip, tabloids, garbage music that you listen to. All of this stuff is going straight into your mind, and it's the most low consciousness, low brow, disempowering and negative crap, and it's extremely addictive, and it pushes all of your low consciousness base buttons in your mind. You have to stop this shit. Cut it out cold turkey. Most people these days are so addicted to this that they don't have time in their life for any self-actualization work at all. They can't even pick up a book and read it for 30 minutes because they're so addicted to television or to the internet or to their phone. That was a very important aspect of my life, is cleaning up my information intake. Without that, I simply could not be doing what I'm doing right now. Actualized.org could not exist because otherwise I would be playing so many video games all day. Next, which is closely related to this, is eliminating hard addictions. By hard addictions, I mean things like junk food, drugs, coffee, alcohol, smoking, shopping, pornography, video games. Many people don't even consider some of these things hard addictions people eat junk food or play video games, they don't even think of that as a heart addiction. Well, I categorize that as a heart addiction. And there's a lot more of them. I have a whole episode called Overcoming Addictions, which talks about that. Overcoming addictions is very important for newbies because if you're doing all this, you have no time, you're completely distracted from any kind of higher consciousness work. Because look, you're just bouncing like a pinball from junk food to drugs to coffee to alcohol to smoking to shopping to pornography to video games, and you're just doing this every single day, every single week of your life. There's no room in there. There's no possibility for a meditation practice. There's no possibility for yoga. There's no possibility for reading books. There's no possibility for going to a seminar. Because when you're addicted to all this stuff, a seminar or meditation looks so boring to you that it's just impossible to do it. See, you're completely overstimulated. This needs to stop. And that will probably take you years to cut out all these terrible addictions. But those are just the hard addictions. The second point and method under addictions is the subtle addictions. And these are, in many ways, even more challenging than the hard addictions. Because these addictions are so subtle and so socially acceptable, and they're so sneaky and tricky that you don't even know you're doing them. And even once you realize you're doing them, you don't even know how to begin to stop doing them. So what are some examples of soft addictions? Theorizing, judging, chasing success, chasing love, chasing validation, perfectionism, being right all the time, morality, arguing and debating, criticizing, and the list goes on and on. I'll shoot a video soon and in the future about dealing with subtle addictions. But this stuff is very tricky, and it's very important that you stop doing these things because all of these things are holding you back from self-actualizing. Another method for you is getting more life experiences, whether that's through travel, going out, being in nature, camping, living in different cities, interacting with new, interesting people, having deeper conversations with strangers. Because you need more source material to see the complexity and nuance in life, to see all the different options that are available for you. Most people, because they don't do any of these things, they don't have a lot of life experience, they can't get motivated to really live a rich life. They're just sitting playing video games all day and jerking off to porn because they haven't seen how much richness and amazing stuff there is out there to do and what some amazing people are out there doing. Another method for you is building socialization skills and dating skills. This is something that I've spent a couple of years really hardcore doing in my life because I've had terrible socialization skills, deeply introverted, fearful of people, anxious around people, social anxiety, so all this stuff, and terrible with women, terrible with attraction, terrible with sex. So all this stuff required a lot of effort and work for me. And there's a lot of theory available online about how to learn to socialize and how to learn to date. Another method for you is finding healthy forms of relaxation and entertainment. That's tricky because almost all forms of relaxation and entertainment that you know are these highly toxic kinds that I've mentioned already up above, which are addictions, really. So finding healthy ways to do that, whether it's some kind of sport or being out in nature or meditation or whatever that is for you, that's important. Another method is just getting your affairs in order. A lot of people are living such a disheveled lifestyle. They're disorganized, dirty, they have bills to pay, they have obligations to their family, to their work, to their boss. It's just like you have all your affairs, old tax returns that aren't finished, and it's like you have all this shit that is just like weighing you down and not giving you any space, no emotional space, no mental space, nor enough time to focus on inner growth. So you need to handle those affairs and set up automatic systems so that those affairs don't keep nagging you in the future. For example, with bills, set up automatic bill payments so that you're not worrying about paying your bills every single month. That frees up a lot of mental energy and time, which you can then use to grow yourself. rather than worrying and running to the post office, mailing checks and all this kind of crap. Just a complete waste. Get that shit automated. And not just your bills, but try to automate everything like that you can in your life so that the logistics of your life are very clean and run very smoothly. Which brings us to the next point of minimizing your lifestyle. I have a whole episode called Lifestyle Minimalism, which talks about this. The problem, again, is that you don't have enough time in your life just to sit and to do nothing. Your calendar is way too full. You're doing way too much stuff at work, with your kids, with your friends, just like constantly doing stuff all the time. Your calendar needs to be mostly open with nothing to do but just sit on your couch to reflect, to contemplate, just to soak in life, the very mundane aspects of life that you're running away from with all this activity. Another method for you is finding a quality life coach or therapist and working with them one-on-one. Especially if you make over $50,000 a year, it makes sense for you to work with a life coach or a therapist. If you're very young, if you're a teenager, if you're still in your very early 20s, if you make less than $50,000 a year, it doesn't really make sense for you to work with a life coach or a therapist because it's just going to be too expensive and not worthwhile. But if you make a good amount of money, it's a really good investment. They can really help you to figure out your sticking points. And the last method that I'll give you is neurofeedback training. This is a new technology, relatively speaking, and I haven't talked about it before, but I will in the future. I'm really excited about the potential of this technology because it can be used to cure a lot of very serious stuff, from depression to anxiety to phobias to ADHD, OCD, and other stuff like that, anger issues, migraines. And there's a lot of stuff that it can potentially cure. And also it can be used to meditate very effectively. So that's something I've been experimenting with, and I'll be sharing soon with you in the future. What neurofeedback basically is that you actually take electrodes, attach them to your head physically, and then you do various training routines that train your brain to fire in the right ways and to synchronize various portions of your brain, which is different, by the way, from binaural beats. So if you've listened to some of those binaural beat programs, those can also be effective, but they are nowhere near as effective as true neurofeedback training. So I'll talk about that in the future. And that does it. That's the list. Over 40 different techniques here. Now, admittedly, I just glossed over them. And you're probably wondering, but Leo, tell me how to do one of these. How do I do yoga? How do I begin to do neurofeedback training? How do I begin to do shadow work? Where do I start? You start with just research. Don't expect any one person to tell you how to do all of these techniques. This is a very big challenge here, right? We're talking about an extremely large domain. Self-actualization or personal development, in the way that I think of it, encompasses so much stuff that I have yet to meet a person, even a deeply enlightened master, who knows even a quarter of the stuff that I was talking about. You're going to need to go to experts for all these different things to really learn about them properly. And I don't know all this stuff either. You know, that's why I'm always doing research, and I'm always releasing new content, and I'm always exploring new stuff, because that's basically what I'm doing. Is I'm going through my life researching this stuff, the stuff that I need in order to grow to my full potential. So you're probably wondering, well, where do I start? How do I start to self-actualize? Yes, there's research, but then still, where do I start? Let me give you a simple little formula. If you're totally new to this, the way that you start is just by sitting down, blocking out a couple hours of time with a journal. And the first thing you want to do is just to make an assessment of your life. Where are you? Where have you been? Where are you going? Where do you want to go? Consider your options. What's available to you? How much money do you have? How much time do you have? What's holding you back? What are your biggest fears and sticking points? What do you really want out of life? What have you tried that hasn't worked? What have you tried that has worked? And so forth. And really deeply think about this. Especially, you need to get clear about what you really want out of life. What is your vision for your life? What are you trying to construct? If you have no vision, you're lost. And then start making a plan about how to get to what you really want. And do this seriously. Like this is the most important activity in your life, not just a side little tangent. And then keep returning to your plan on a daily basis. And even if you're not working on your plan actively, like let's say your plan is to quit your job and to find your life purpose. Okay, that's great, but you're probably not going to be able to do that right now because you need to hold down your current job and you need to figure stuff out. It's going to take months for that to really work. So you got to keep returning to your plan though and looking it over, strategizing, thinking about it, exploring various options, start doing the research. And then that's basically how you start. And then you can take all these different techniques that I have, and then it's pretty easy to see that, hey, if my plan is that I want a new career, well, maybe I should go to a career seminar. Okay. Or maybe I should do the life purpose course. Okay. And if your plan is that you want to pursue enlightenment and become more conscious, okay, well, then that means you got to read some books about that. You got to go to some seminars. You got to practice some meditation techniques, build your concentration practice, all that sort of stuff. And this isn't rocket science. It's pretty common sense stuff. Let me tell you for newbies what I think are the five most important things. The most important is to have a juicy vision. You need to have a compelling, positive, long-term reason for what you want to create with your life. What is your life about? And that starts from really recognizing that you're going to be dead soon. And this is your one and only life. So what do you want to use it towards? What do you want to accomplish? What does your highest potential look like? And to get really clear about that vision and to really drill it into your mind, program it in there. Because otherwise, you're simply not going to be able to motivate yourself to stop all your addictions, quit eating junk food, quit watching TV, quit playing video games, start meditating. How are you going to do this stuff if you have no long-term compelling vision? You cannot accomplish these things through negative motivation just because you want to avoid some bad stuff in your life. It's never going to work that way. And if you want to know how to build a juicy vision, that's what my life purpose course is for. The second thing that's very important for newbies is theory. Lots and lots and lots of theory. Hundreds, thousands of hours of theory. Because you do not know what is right to pursue in life unless you've done all this theory. You don't know what the options are for how to pursue the right things either because you haven't studied enough theory, and you don't know any of the traps, the many, many, many traps that you will fall into if you just try to do this by the seat of your pants without the right theory. I'm talking about thousands of hours of theory. To help you with that, that's why I have my book list. It has thousands of hours of books there that you can read, but not just books. You also want audio programs, courses, seminars, and so forth. The theory is critical. Like I said before, you can't do surgery on someone unless you really understand, theoretically, all the aspects related to surgery. That's why doctors spend 8 years learning how to become doctors. The third thing is removing addictions and distractions. This is super, super important for newbies. I think that this is one of the biggest things that holds newbies back. So identify what those are for you. Some of them you may not even consider addictions or distractions yet. So that's going to take consciousness for you to realize that. So get to work and start cutting those out because they're holding you back so much. Fourthly is installing some small, healthy habits. Meditation, cleaning up your diet, daily learning, every single day learning something new as far as theory goes, and then doing a couple of retreats a year. If you could just put those pieces right there into place in your life, you're going to be on a really nice trajectory with this work. And then fifthly, I'll say the most important thing for newbies is glimpsing non-egoic consciousness. This is actually not a newbie thing. This is a rather advanced thing. But I think it's so important for newbies because once you get a taste of non-egoic consciousness, a whole new world will open up for you. You will have a much greater, deeper vision for why you're doing self-actualization. Before you witness non-egoic consciousness, your self-actualization is going to be very shallow and materialistic. It's going to be all about getting a girlfriend or finding a spouse or having a good relationship or being successful or having a bunch of money. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg of self-actualization. Getting a glimpse of non-egoic consciousness, whether you do that through meditation or through yoga or through a breathing exercise or through psychedelics, when you get that first real juicy glimpse of it, then you see the light. And at that point, you understand that this is the most important thing in your life. And this becomes not just a side hobby, this becomes everything that your life is about. And then you become real serious about it, and then you start to grow in leaps and bounds. So lastly, let me just give you a couple of pointers about how this process works. This is a lifelong process. This is not something that you do for a month or for a year to fix one problem in your life. Probably the biggest trap that newbies face with self-actualization is that they rush it and they try to do too much too fast. And then what happens is that they get disgusted, disappointed, they experience an ego backlash, they fall back even worse than they were before. They throw their hands up and they say, well, look, all this self-actualization shit obviously doesn't work. It's just bullshit. It's all new age Pollyanna ideas and theory. And then they just go back to living their old kind of life. To avoid that, what you need to do is you need to think long-term. You need to have a long-term vision, 5, 10, 20 years into the future. You need to make changes in your life with baby steps. Baby steps usually means change one thing at a time. If you're working on meditation, do that for a month or 2 or 3. And then when you get some success, move on to the next thing. Maybe your diet. And do that for a month or 2 or 3. And then move on to the next thing. And through baby steps, that's going to work. You need to focus on consistency rather than quantity of result. What's most important is consistency. Your quantity of results, especially at the beginning, the first year or 2, is not going to be super great. You need to have the foresight to see that this is a long-term investment that you're building in yourself and that you need to build the foundation of the skyscraper before you can erect the actual skyscraper. That means you need to have realistic expectations for this process and not get seduced by any kind of marketing material out there that's promising you magic pill solutions, magic enlightenment, magic business in a box ideas, magic marketing schemes, magic get rich quick schemes, magic solutions to your depression or to your addictions. There are no magic pills in this work, except for maybe 5-MeO-DMT, which truly is a magic pill, but that's another matter. So, yeah, that's the biggest trap that you're going to fall into. It's just this problem of consistency and this problem of trying to get too much done too fast. You got to remember that the rewards of this work are so incredible that you don't need a lot of result. A little bit of result every single month, every single year done consistently will produce a more amazing life than you ever imagined possible in 5 or 10 years. If that sounds bad for you and you don't want to wait that long, well, that's one of the things you're going to have to work on, is that you have been imprinted with all sorts of unrealistic expectations by our culture and our marketing system. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is you have now heard and seen the path. This is what your life is about. If you watched my high-level, big picture intro to self-actualization and you've watched this episode here, you've seen the path. You now know what it looks like from a big picture level and sort of a medium picture level. The biggest danger now is that you forget this path. And that tomorrow You wake up and you go back to your old routine and you make no changes, you make no commitments, you make no uh, you just go back asleep back into your old habits and you forget about this entire thing. That's the biggest danger. So now what you need to do is you need to keep this in your mind. You need to write this down, put some sticky notes on your bathroom mirror, whatever, to remind yourself that you found the path. And then now all that needs to happen, you need to start to take your first step, your second step, your third step, and follow through on this path. And remember that the first 2 years is the hardest because your results are going to be small, your follow through is going to be shaky, and you're going to be very tempted to fall back into your old routines. And that's something you have to resist. All right, that's self-actualization for newbies in a nutshell. I'm done here. Click the like button for me. Post your comments down below. Share this episode with a friend. And lastly, come to my website right here, Actualized.org. Check it out. I have resources for you there. Courses, book lists, forum, my blog with various insights, and new stuff that I'll be releasing in the future. So stick around with me for that. And stay tuned for more Actualized videos.